Welcome. Wow. I'm just a little bit in shock here, a little bit angry, ticked off. But I've had season tickets with the Mavs for 34 years, I think now, starting in 1991. And it's been so much fun watching Luka. But I'm going to only be able to see him when he comes into town with the Lakers now. This is very frustrating. So I'll try to give you some sports card insight. But right now, I'm just reacting to it. And I'm going to get it out there for you guys to get perspective. I'm not at a loss for words, but I'm trying to make sense of it, and maybe some of you are too. Thanks, sponsors: Topps, Panini, Upper Deck, Heritage Auctions, Huggins & Scott Auctions, Mike Stadium Sports Cards, Burbank Sports Cards, CompC.com, and Beckett Media, Beckett Grading, Beckett Authentications. I'm not giving up with season tickets. I love Anthony Davis too, but Luka was so ball dominant that it will be interesting to see how they compensate. It's going to wear down Kyrie. Kyrie's up to the task, except that he's not a 40-minute player. Maxi Kleber, I loved him for so long, but he had passed his prime, was having health problems. But I just really enjoyed him in his prime, and now he's moved on to the Lakers as well. So it's Kyrie's team now, and I think those guys will play well together. When Derek Lively comes back, Daniel Gafford, I think there's a spot for them. AD, Anthony Davis, does prefer to play the four. Looking for this really strong four player, they got perhaps the best one that can easily move up to the five and play center to close out games. In that sense, it's good. But Luka was a pretty amazing first quarter player. He came out firing so many times. He didn't instigate this trade. It was Nico Harrison, the GM, which just shows how much power he has, and the new ownership of the Mavs have confidence in that. Luka lived, I don't know if he's moving, but he lived about a half mile from here. He had that burglary, which bothered me, but I think they were looking for his memorabilia or something, whatever. But he wasn't the impetus for this trade. Nico Harrison, the GM, is really putting his stamp on this team. Mark Cuban is, I think, still a part owner, but he's not a majority owner, so his say is diminished. I think who wouldn't like Luka in the way he plays and enjoying that. Nico says defense wins championships, but offense puts people in the seats. And so to have an exciting team that got to the finals every year, as the Lakers did that back in the 80s, was it, where they came close but didn't win as much, the Celtics. But if you're putting a competitive, exciting team, a Showtime team on the floor, which they were doing with Luka, then you can give up a little bit on the defense. Now, on the other hand, Luka, frankly, was not in great shape most of the time. And when you're playing hard on offense and defense, it really takes a lot out of you. Even if you're 25 or 26 years old, it's still a fast-paced game. And so more injuries. I think he was getting hurt on defense as opposed to offense necessarily. But he's going to be able to take off some plays when he's playing with LeBron, at least for this year and perhaps next year. But LeBron is on the downhill side as well. But Luka for sure is the heir apparent. So when people talk about winning championships, I think that's old school. Winning championships before the ability to create super teams with the salary cap and the gyrations that star players can do to bring their buddies to the team. Winning championships, I think, is not what I'm looking at. What I'm looking at when I think about the great players is, are they all pro? Are they all NBA? Are they first team all NBA? Are they getting votes for MVP? There's a lot of great players that do not have the support. And if they had better support, Michael Jordan didn't win championships until he had the support in place. Belichick in football was famous for getting rid of people when they were just ready to go downhill just a little bit. And so I think the Mavs are looking ahead. Max Christie, I think, can play. Anthony Davis, I think, has 5 more good years. We will see. I'm not sure the Mavs will do better than the Lakers this year. I think they both potentially will be teams that I think probably could each get to the conference semifinals, but maybe not even the finals. And if they play each other, that would be amazing. Yeah. The other question, is there another shoe to drop? The trade deadline is coming up in a few days. Do they make a run at De'Aaron Fox or somebody else that's ball dominant, maybe not quite as much as Luka, or do they just put it all in the hands of Kyrie? They've got their all-pro power forward now who can also play center. I wish they'd have thrown in Dorian Finney-Smith in the deal from the Lakers as well, because I think he'd be that 3-and-D guy. They could really use him too. A lot of the complaints in the hobby are about game worn versus player worn. But does that mean Luka Mavericks material is devalued? I'm not sure. Panini is at a point where they don't need to be airbrushing. They can get some fresh photos for any cards, any sets that come out in the next few months. But I don't think Luka's cards from his long, good run on the Mavericks are going to be all of a sudden devalued. But there will be a bump for his first Laker cards. That's been pretty common. The other question I would ask Nico, which he won't answer, and I won't be able to ask him anyway, is when he was looking around over the last few years, were there some of the stars that he would find desirable, would fit in well with the Mavs? Were some of them unwilling or less desirous of coming to Dallas because Luka was too ball dominant, or because Luka didn't always get back on defense, or that he was out of shape at the beginning of the year, constantly complaining to the refs, getting technicals? I doubt that, because I think people, even though I'm saying I don't want to judge people based on how many championships they won, I think players really are interested in being on championship teams. And Luka is a good start. If you put the right people around him, I really think he is a championship player. And I think instead of expecting Luka to play better defense, he plays the kind of defense that poking the ball, and he's got good hands, good anticipation, but he's not going to be having super fast feet to get in front of people and all that. I think the Mavericks were worried about signing Luka. I think that would have been this summer, and they would have absolutely had to sign him to a supermax. And that's not a bad thing if they could lock him in and they had his full attention and best efforts. But this year, I think, was interesting in the sense that he really was injured a lot, was gone more than half and so he didn't even make the All-Star. Of course, it's hard to do that when you didn't play very many games. Bottom line, I think it's good for Max Christie. I think it's good for Anthony Davis. And actually, I think it's good for Luka. I think Luka's being out in L.A. with the Lakers, Showtime. I think he's got a window of 1 or 2 years here with LeBron. Maybe it's this year if they can put it all together, and I'm not sure they can. Like I said, I don't see them as being any better than the Mavericks this year. They're imperfect. They've each got a couple of stars, but the supporting cast, you can't just have one star and then 9 good players. You've got to have 2 or 3 stars and then 4 or 5 really good, not reserves, but when I looked at some of the teams the Mavs would put out on the floor, and I looked at the other team and I thought, which ones of these Mavericks could start on the other team? And many of them would not be able to start on the other team. And I saw that when they play inferior teams. When they played the Wizards, I guess they wouldn't have minded trading for Kyle Kuzma if that could have been worked out. But again, Anthony Davis is world class. When he played in college, he was just amazing. So, like I said, I don't have a vote. I'm not the czar of anything. I am a proud season ticket holder. I will continue to go to games this year. I will continue to get tickets for next year, and as long as I can, because it's a great right. And when Luka comes to town, the tickets are just going to spike. Whether they're mad at him, I just don't know. Whether they're mad at Nico, I'm not sure about that either. But I think collectors usually try to find the positive. I don't know that anybody's going to say, I'm no longer going to collect Luka. In fact, there may be some people say, I do want to collect Luka. And if Anthony Davis all of a sudden catches fire and gets a championship with Kyrie, he is a great player. And maybe Jason Kidd can bring out the best in those guys, being a real player's coach and understanding the flow of the game and what Anthony Davis likes to do and doesn't like to do. Just like Jason Kidd found out playing the same position as Luka, point guard more than point forward. But Luka really enjoyed having the ball and doing the pick and rolls forever. And he loved doing the long outlet passes. He loved assists. He got more than his share of rebounds. But if you're going for a championship, I think Nico made the decision that building a team around Luka was not going to win a championship. And I'm not sure I agree with that. I think in a perfect world, they get Anthony Davis and keep Luka, but that wasn't going to happen. But you have to give up something to get something. I think the Mavs lost the trade, but not if Luka was going to be leaving anyway in a year or two or becoming a problem, because he may have been bigger than the team. In the hobby, they love that. They love guys that are larger than life. But the players know who they want to play with. I wish Luka the best. And thanks, everybody. I bumped my episode that I was going to do today that was the Football Card Hall of Fame. It'll come out tomorrow morning in a special edition, but go to YouTube and look up the 2025 ballot for the Football Card Hall of Fame, and I'll be talking about that. That was the episode I was going to have for today. I'm releasing it tomorrow, and y'all go vote for your favorite football cards.